Okay, we are here. Special episode of the Pipeline Podcast. This one is focused on getting people started with creating content. That could be written content, it could be video content, it could be audio content. There are many different formats, but particularly for startup founders and builders, it is really, really important to tell your company story, to build a personal brand, to put yourself and your team and your company out there in public. Beyond polished marketing resources, there's huge value in growing that brand. And we have with us Jussup, legendary content creator for over a decade now, the biggest inspiration for the pipeline and other forms of content that I've worked on. So hugely valuable resource here. And we're going to chat through how you can get started, what you can do, what you can use for inspiration. Very simple things that don't take a lot of time. It really doesn't take that much effort and energy because founders are busy. We understand that. There's a ton of things to work on, but this is one of the most high potential areas, not only for your startup, but collectively for the Monad community and ecosystem to grow to the ultimate, scale that we have in our targets. So just
Professor Pipes.
we've known each other for several years now. And throughout my journey, I guess, over the past 14 months and working on the pipeline, from the earliest podcast episodes to doing vlogs around the world with the Monad community, Monad ecosystem of builders, really always looked at your content as inspiration and gave you quite a few calls and texts looking for tips and feedback. So would love to use this time to introduce you to some of the Monad community, some of the Monad ecosystem builders, and hopefully we can share some alpha to help level up the volume and quality of content we're seeing from projects across the ecosystem.
Yeah. Happy to share whatever information. I mean, I've been creating videos since I was like 10 years old. So just like I've been doing it my whole life, some sort of fashion.
Maybe a little bit different for a 10-year-old as compared to somebody who's maybe a startup founder or a builder in the space. But what advice would you give to somebody who has never produced any content but is thinking about getting into it?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is that I would imagine every single person that is watching this has an iPhone or something equivalent, and that is the best tool to get started on. Because I can't tell you how many times I'll get like asked, what equipment should I buy first? And like literally my answer is just start with your phone, because you'll realize that the investment, the time investment is a little bit more than the actual financial investment that you're going to have to make. So you need to work out all the kinks using your phone, start filming anything. And then, I mean, there's so many different tools right now that are available. Like you started doing podcasts with Riverside. It's so easy to just start doing anything. And I think this is advice that goes beyond just creating content and going to building an app or building anything, is just start. Literally, we have so many tools. You have ChatGPT at your fingertips. There's no excuses whatsoever. It's just start creating things, because you're going to suck at the beginning of whatever you're trying to do, and you'll fumble your way into getting better and better. And I think the faster that you can make mistakes, the faster you're going to get better. And it's really important not to ever compare yourself to like, oh, well, this person is creating this high quality content, and then you are just, Mr. Beast gives this advice, and this is just something I've always believed in as well. And it's just focus on getting better 1% each time. I don't know if you have to break it down into percentages, but in general, like I saw the biggest growth in my content creation when I decided I was going to do a vlog a day. I called it Gone in 60, and I did a vlog in 60 seconds every single day. And all I did was focus on the next video had to be incrementally better. And I often, people will ask for advice on, hey, how can I get better on this video? And I actually don't even tell them all of the things that they can do better because I don't want to overwhelm them. If you focus on trying to perfect all these different things, you will just slow your growth so fast. Instead, it's just move as quickly as possible and work on one tiny little thing each iteration, and it will, like, the amount of time that will pass and you'll be like, holy shit, I literally got that much better because you just ran full force into it.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on the last year of pipeline content, it's crazy to see, even in just like a short year, how much volume there has been, starting with myself, scripting, filming, editing, producing everything, just one man show. And then, working with Savant, coming up through the community, working with yourself for the past several months. But the amount of volume that we've been able to produce is crazy on one hand, but the improvement in quality is crazy too. Like, go back and look at the first pipeline episode. The production wasn't anything to write home about. The content was okay, but I've definitely improved as a host, improved as a moderator, throughout the past year and then some. But it just took that moment of like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get started. You, to a degree, kind of check your ego at the door and you're like, it is what it is. I know that this isn't going to be Mr. Beast level quality, but it's something to build on. And I think your advice, for the most part, applies equally to video and audio content as well as written content. Because when I was first starting out, exploring crypto, I was so scared to tweet. I was I was scared I would say inaccurate information, or I was scared that someone would make fun of the things that I liked or the things that I was like, talking about or found cool in the space. And, maybe I was into like the cringe NFTs and, wasn't, involved in the cool stuff. But that's another thing that, really being in the Monoid community has showed me is that not every tweet is going to be your best tweet. And there's really no way to predict which tweets at the end of the day are going to perform the best. You just have to stick with it. You have to find ways to be really fast, really efficient, put out content, and, learn from the rear view mirror, I think, as well.
And I think if you don't personalize it, and for me, like, this was my form of art. Like, I kind of look at myself as an artist. I create things in a bunch of different mediums. And so I've had to really teach myself on how to detach from the outcome because, especially just like we all judge these things based off of metrics and numbers and things like that. But in reality, like, those are just data points as well. So you can just look at them as data points. And the more information that you put out there, it's just like an algorithm. Like, the more things that it has to gather data points on, and it is going to figure out who your audience is, and it's going to learn all these things. And you also can only guess who your audience is so much. Like, for a while, when like I had a really big push in my content, and it was on Facebook with like older women. That was not my target audience. But like, I had this just massive upstream, and I don't know if it's because I was a single dad in the mountains, like, and I was showcasing my life, and like, I just had this massive uptick in like 40, 50-year-old women. And that was not who I was making videos for, but like, it's not. And then I turned into Young Gravy. But you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you can only just put the data out there and then take in that information and do with it as you the best you can, and just like reiterate and keep trying. And sometimes the market will tell you who your audience is.
Product market fit, but with content. Yeah. So, I mean, that's I think a great place to start. It's like rip the Band-Aid off, just get into it. But if you don't intrinsically understand why it's important, and if you're not actually motivated to put in the work, like you said, to actually, you know, just put yourself out there and be consistent, whether you're tweeting, writing blog articles, recording a podcast, or, even doing something like short videos. Why would it be important for a startup founder or a builder in the crypto space to produce content? Yeah, to spend any time on this at all. Like, their schedules are so busy. There's so many fires to put out. You're working on so many different things. The TV's off.
Yeah, right. Um, I mean, I think it's obvious. Like if you don't realize that you need to get your message out there and your product, then like you might need to take a step back and figure out what you're doing in business, because it's obvious. You can't build Disneyland on a private island and expect to succeed. Like people need to know about it. People are, if you're building something worth value, you got to share it with the world. And I think a lot of people, a lot of like people that are more humble definitely feel reserved in like bragging about what they're doing. And I totally understand that sentiment and that feeling. But you have to get over that. That's just another thing that you have to get over. And at some point, you need to share what it is you're doing. Because also, if you expect to attract any type of market, people need to be able to trust you, especially in crypto. So like one of the things that like Gary Vaynerchuk was always talking about is if you don't know where to start, just start documenting. Just start like vlogging and documenting what you're doing, because there are things that you can do with that later, or just talk about what you're working on. And I know a lot of people think that they have an idea that they don't want to share with the world because somebody will steal it. Well, if it's a good idea, somebody else is already working on it. And the first person to start talking about it and sharing it out there is going to establish themselves as a KOL or the person who knows what they're talking about. So it's like the faster you can get out there and talk, the better. There's a few different reasons why businesses will create content, and not all of them are just to attract a market or an audience. One major thing is like people will businesses or projects, or you create it to also attract people that want to work for you and work with you. So you have to think about when you're creating content in any form, written, audio, video, any of that, you have to start separating them. Who is this going to be for? Is this for my market and my audience and my customer base? Is this to attract people that have similar cultures? Because you can train anybody on anything, but when you're building a business, you want to have people who align with your culture and mission. Otherwise, one person can spoil the entire batch. So you have to attract the right people that will keep your business and your culture and value that, so that you're all working towards the same thing. So that's one thing. Another thing is creating content that keeps your competitors on their toes. Because when you are creating content, and if everybody is watching you, then nobody is working. They're spending their time working on you, which gives you a competitive advantage. So a lot of people will do that in order to keep their competitors. It's not a strategy to keep things quiet all the time, because like you can get leverage by distracting them with what you're doing. And I think those are some different pillars that people don't realize you have to separate and think about when you're doing creating content of any kind.
And in the process, you might just get the middle-aged single women.
Exactly. I don't know if they're single, but they didn't give me that. But because I'm also still single.
So yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally, a lot of founders fundamentally understand you have to put the product out there to market. You have to package it in a way that's attractive and exciting. And obviously, that looks very different for a lot of different products, but that lens behind the product into the team. What's the story of the founders? Why are you working on the product that you're working on? What qualifications or experience do you have that, you know, positions you to be an innovator, a thought leader, somebody who's going to bring about change through your product. Content, whether it's a tweet or an image with a caption, or you talking just audibly about your past experiences, your vision, what you're working on, why you're working on it. You could hold up your phone and just say, I'm working on this today because of XYZ. This is important to our product because it does blah blah blah. I'm really excited to share this with you, and boom, post.
And I think what one of the things that are going through somebody watching this mind is like, I feel really uncomfortable talking to a camera. So do I. I still do often. And I get hung up all the time. Like it's just something that you start again, is just start doing it. Dude, if you look at the old videos, like I was terrible. And you just start to get better. And then you start to even get more of a feel of like, how is it that I can deliver to camera and certain things. Like there's still some things that I get hung up on, but like I've figured out my method of how do I do it that I feel comfortable with, and it turns out good because I've done it enough times. So my process works for me, and your process might not work. My process might not work for you, but you will find your own process. And the only way to do that is by getting out and doing it. And so I think that's one thing, is like every objection that you have in your head of, I'm not going to do this, I don't have the time, I don't, it's an excuse. It's 100% an excuse. And it's either you're scared or you're just don't know where to start. And I think, yeah, it's just gonna make you uncomfortable, and that's literally life. Like, if you gotta, it's necessary, it's necessary, they know it's necessary. We're not teaching anybody that something that they don't know they need to do. Yeah, the biggest thing is just start. Um,
And I mean, I think like, okay, if you're building a product in, I don't know, some random non crypto industry, you don't have some of the same advantages that you do in crypto because of the way that crypto works, because inherently there are incentives to have a global community supporting you and your product, especially if you're telling your story
yeah,
in a way that's impactful and meaningful and exciting and inspiring to those community members. You know, like, how different would the Monad community be? I reflect and think, if Keone was not active on Twitter, if Keone was anonymous and nobody had ever seen a picture of him. Sure, you can create content as an anon, but specifically in the lens of Keone's personal brand, and how that is just a pivotal cornerstone of the Monad community that easily could be very different. You look at Anatoly, very much so in the same lane as Keone, very present in the Solana community,
yeah,
very,
for sure.
vocal on all the different podcasts he's hosted over the years. And somehow the busiest founders make time for this because they know it's important and they see the value, not just in the first day that they do the content, or the first week, or the first month, or even sometimes the first year, but you don't see the value of your product, the first day you sit down and start to write the code. Like, these things compound. And the sooner you start, the sooner you're going to be positioned for that rocket ship growth.
Yeah. And like, I think it's fair to say, if you genuinely can't do it, and it's not, I don't even want to use the word can't because I know you can. It's just, if you genuinely don't want to put the effort into doing it, then hire somebody that, but again, that goes back to culture, is like, make sure that person is aligned with what you're doing so that they can be a spokesperson while you are building your business. And I would then challenge you to, at that same time, put some energy into figuring out how to get over those things. So, because it's a necessary piece of your business and growing, to get that information out there, to have somebody be a face of your business. And if that isn't you, then hire for that while you're working on it, because eventually you need to. And I think that's another second step. Um, Another thing that you haven't really asked a question for this yet, but something that is on my mind is, I think what people also need to think about when they're creating content is like providing value with it. And so one of the things that I've noticed since I've been a part of Monad and seen some of the behind the scenes of like, I've noticed a lot of our discussions is about providing value to our community. And it's not so much, this is an example that I've used in the past of like, a say a sandwich shop. A sandwich shop needs to promote their business or create content around their business. Now, they can go and make a commercial about how they use only organically sourced vegetables, the highest quality of meats, all this stuff, but all of that is just me, 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 me. Look at what I do. And in reality, they could do something that is going to provide value for their audience or the viewer, and they can go and create a series around the best places to go on a picnic and just bring the sandwich with them. And now you've created a completely different dynamic with your viewer, because you are creating content that is giving them value, providing these different places that you can go and picnic. You're showcasing it, whether it's information or entertaining, and the sandwich is just the byproduct. You can throw that in there and you can mention those things that you want to mention, but you've positioned it in a way that the audience is first. And I think there's a different, when you're creating content to promote businesses, you have to think of the value that you can provide to other people. I think when you're creating art specifically for the sake of art, you can it flips a little bit and you are creating for yourself. However, it's different for businesses. And I think that's just something to think about when you're coming up with ideas of what can we do, is you're the guide and your audience is the hero. How do you make them the hero? How do you give them value? How do you serve them?
Yeah. Yep. And especially in crypto, if you lean into that community, you lean into that audience and you provide them value, it doesn't have to be monetary value. It can be like value through content, value through information, value through learning, value through product. Then, those early community members are going to ride or die with you and for you. And, they're going to put on post notifications. They're going to retweet you. They're going to, you know, be very genuine and show a lot of love on your content. And
You don't have to ask them. They want to do it.
right, exactly. And that's, one of the most exciting and amazing things. And, that kind of produces this flywheel where get this love from the community and the support. And then you want to find additional ways to provide them value. You want to, continue giving back and helping them, grow or develop in whatever way you ultimately can. So, I mean, huge advantage, I think, to being a public facing founder, to really sharing your vision and your story. Like we talked about, you just got to rip the Band-Aid off. You got to do something. You got to, hold yourself accountable to something that's actually feasible. So, you're probably not going to be able to produce, a 10 hours of vlog content per week. So you probably shouldn't try. But if you, like you started small, doable, and something that you can do really consistently, like
Yeah.
a 60-second video per day, edit it on CapCut.
CapCut, literally.
Amazing app. So like you wouldn't believe how easy it is to do. And if you don't want to be on camera, write, write tweets. Like the Monon community and the broader crypto community is itching to consume interesting and unique and insightful content beyond these clickbait threads that we see on the timeline all day. I think what would be probably a valuable, interesting, and funny segment would be if we just went back and forth and riffed some subjects or ideas to inspire founders. Basically like examples of what they could create content.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make it a challenge. I'll probably lose brutally. First one to get stumped loses. Okay, my first subject. Write about the first day, or write or create some sort of content about the first day you started building your product.
Okay, so we're just coming up with an idea.
Yeah, like what could somebody who's watching this, who's never created any content, saw the first half of this podcast, thought it might be worth a go.
Yeah, I mean, I think first thing is like do an interview with every person in your team. Like the if you can connect people with the faces behind building it, it's going to ensure that much more trust. And I think having some sort of just interview, even like the way that we did the 60-second podcast, where we started doing that with all of the team members. I think just 60 seconds, do a 60-second quick interview. People put a bio and a photo on the website. Why not turn that into actual content?
Love it. Yeah. And if you don't know what questions to ask in the interview, ChatGPT.
Or buy a 60-second podcast.
Okay. Number 2, write what your mission statement is or your vision and share it with the world, and include a brief explanation as to why that's your mission, why that's your vision.
Yeah. Use an AI music app to create a fun, goofy song about what it is you're building. Like, just come up with there's so many AI tools. You can literally just have ChatGPT write lyrics about what it is you're building and then drop it into an AI platform to create a song about it. Different, unique, but like that's content.
Definitely. Okay, number 3 for me. Every morning, every night, doesn't have to be a specific time of day, but every day would probably be, or just do it often. Scroll the trending tab on Twitter. Look through what topics are trending that day. Could be other social medias as well, but we're kind of focused on Twitter here. Scroll through the trending tab, see what's trending, particularly in crypto. And when there is a topic that you have any sort of knowledge or thoughts on or expertise or even questions on, just write a paragraph or a few paragraphs about that topic. It's more likely to be pushed out to a wider audience because other people are talking about that topic as well. And if you have any sort of credibility or insight or expertise on that subject, chances are the people that are consuming this trending content because they're interested in it will find yours interesting as well.
I mean, the obvious one is just start interviewing, download Riverside, start doing a podcast and interviewing people in your space. And you're like, simple as just starting a podcast of talking to people in whatever realm you're building.
Yeah. Another one, you could create a brief video or a brief write-up, or even an extended article if you happen to have this much material. Why are you building on Monad? Is it the tech? Is it the community? Is it the ecosystem? Is it that you had a call with me and you just really just kidding.
Another one is like just end of the day, every day, brain dump, set a camera up, your phone up, and just brain dump in your day. And like, you don't even necessarily have to post it right away, but I think starting to document your daily progress as you're building something, especially if you truly believe in what you're building. I think, imagine Steve Jobs or somebody that is building something so big, Keone, like anybody that is building something so big that they believe in it that much. If you could go back and watch these videos from when they started, I think even just that little bit of you're thinking so far in the future that you're like, okay, I know what I'm doing and I believe in it so much that somebody's going to find value in the process from when I started at zero, and just saying, this is what we are dealing with. Like, write out maybe 3 questions that you answer every day. And not only that, it also is going to give you some sort of reflection, just like the same value that you would get from writing in a journal and reflecting on your day. One thing I did with my son, and you can apply this, is like we would do 2 roses and a thorn, which is like 2 good things that happened and 1 bad thing or area of opportunity. And you can literally just set that up and say two things that went really well and 1 area of opportunity, and compile that and put it in a hard drive.
Boom. That like two roses and a thorn. We might have to edit that part out. Take that for ourselves. Actually, mine. And I promise I was thinking about this already. Write about your failures. Write about your maybe it has nothing to do with the company that you're building now, but people really relate to other people who are, humble and truthful and trustworthy and down to earth. And I just had an idea. I'm trying not to laugh at what you're saying. I was like, is this funny? It's not funny. I just had an idea of it's so stupid, but I mean, go for it. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious why, like, writing about your failures, putting yourself out there, showing that you are human is, going to be relatable for other people on the timeline, and they'll probably end up respecting you for it.
100%. I agree with that. I don't want to devalue it. Last week, but I was just going to say, learn some TikTok dances. You know what? But I mean, honestly, though, like recreating TikTok trends, even though it doesn't seem relevant, uh, it does so well. And like we did one where it was just Keone guessing the names or the people saying Gamonad, and it performed so well. And it's like, from a logical standpoint, you just, it does it. How is it relative to what we're doing? But the thing is like, it's also an algorithm game. So if you can tap into the algorithm, then it just is gonna like, the algorithm goes, okay, these people are starting to make things that does do well. It's going to feed you to your audience even more. So it's like the more data points, mix in trendy things, and it will do well.
Yeah, I had one, but then I started listening to you and I freaking forgot it.
Looks like you failed.
Oh no! Now I see. I could have worked way harder on that. Because I had a good one too. Well, I don't know if it was good, but I had one, and it was. I did failures. Oh, what did you accomplish this week?
Yeah.
That's a cool thing. Like, to have a lens behind the door of a startup that's in very early stages, and to learn what's being worked on, why it's being worked on, and what's accomplished as well is hugely exciting, especially for a loyal supporter in the community. Like, these people are supporting you for weeks, months, or even years before the launch of your product.
Yeah.
So give them something to be excited about. Give them something beyond your documentation, your polished public marketing resources, and tell them what's going on. Maybe it's even a smaller subset of the community that gets access to certain content. Once they've been really loyal supporters or followers. There's all sorts of interesting ways that you can growth hack content as well, to make it more, give it more punch value.
Right. Well, I think that was a lot of options, and like, feel free to steal those. I mean,
Yeah, please do.
that's the thing. And genuinely, like, I joked around with the 60-second podcast, but I've already had people, like a real estate agent, he bought one. I gave him one, but specifically, he's using it to interview other real estate agents, and it's going really well for him. And so it's like, use resources, and like I've created something that you can literally steal and go and use, and the content has tons of virality. So there's not just what I'm doing, and there's lots of things like that that you can feel free to steal and use and tweak. And um, those resources are out there, and you have ChatGPT, you have Grok. There's so many different AI helpers that can just help you come up with ideas. So there's no excuse. I'm done with the excuses.
We know you can do it.
Yeah.
We're here to support you. We're here to hopefully inspire you. And, we're all on this big journey together as the Monad ecosystem. But the success of the Monad ecosystem is inherently the success of the startups that build on top of Monad. And we're really excited to see more and more founders and builders become content creators in whatever way, shape, or form feels right, fits right, and, drives value back to them and their brands. So if you watch all the way through, thanks for hanging with us. Let us know if you have any questions. We're literally here to help, and we want to see your win.
Easy to get a hold of.
Beautiful. Well, thanks, Jessup. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you all for watching. Hope that helped.